ethical breach, ethical breach, ethical breach. Let me just make, from my perspective at least, put one cap on this whole issue of the Lloyd's of London and potential, or the issue of whether or not there was any ethical breach. I'd like to ask unanimous consent that the statute in question be entered in the record at this point. The statute referred to by Senator Specter, what is the number? 28 U.S.C. 455. And let me say, just so at least this one senator's view of how this parses out. It seems to me there's two distinct questions. The first question is, up until this point in your judicial career, have you engaged in any activity at any time that is in any way in conflict with the canons of ethics and or judicial canons of ethics or the statute that I referenced that would lead any reasonable person or reasonable persons to conclude that there was an ethical breach? I think the evidence, 5 out of the 6 scholars in this area we've spoken to, some better known and respected than others, is clearly, from their perspective, the answer is no, you have not violated any ethical norm, written or spoken. And secondly, based on all the testimony here, the cases I've read, what that you've acted on, I think it's beyond any question that you have acted ethically. The second issue is a tougher and less clear issue, and that is, what do you do as a Supreme Court justice from this moment on, or as a circuit court judge from this moment on, in matters relating to insurance cases, which by somewhere through the ether even could affect a potential holding. And I think this is a case of first instance in that, to the best of my knowledge, because of your investments and your wife's investments and your wife's country of origin, England, you are, for a whole range of reasons, invested as a name in Lloyd's of London. You in the late 80s said you wanted out of that because of the mechanisms that control Lloyd's of London and how that operation works. You are not able to do that. And what do you do from this point on? And it seems to me that comes down to a question, at least indirectly, of the extent of your potential liability as an investor, as a so-called name in Lloyd's of London. And we have had from various sources, respected sources, estimates that range from low as $37,000 to assertions made as little, as much as unlimited liability. The probable area is something closer to the potential maximum total loss being closer, that's in the $100,000 range. But the truth is, we're never going to be able to nail that down with absolute certainty. The liability goes back to the 80s. You'd think after 8, 9, 10 years, you'd begin to get a picture of what that might be. If it was going to be as horrific as some have suggested, we might be able to get a picture. But I don't think anyone could say, but the good Lord, with absolute certainty, what that potential liability is. And I want to emphasize to you that what Senator Simon said. I, for one, am enthusiastic about your nomination because I believe your judicial philosophy, your character is beyond reproach, but your judicial philosophy is consistent with what, and this is all each individual senator has a right to do and does have a right to do, consistent with what I look to as where I'd like to see this nation move and how it should go. And therefore, I don't want you recusing yourself from every important case that comes forward. So, I would look very closely at what you said today, and I am not clairvoyant. I am not even as well schooled as you are in knowing what might or might not be the appropriate future course of action. But it is something that is a case of first instance, the best of my knowledge and my staff's, and one that the Judicial Conference and the Congress, unrelated to you, is going to have to look at. So, because I know I'll be asked, I want to state on the record that I have looked at this as closely as I can, as dispassionately as I'm capable of doing, and have concluded that on these separable issues of have you thus far in any way acted in an improper way, the answer is clearly no. What is the font of wisdom as to how to act in the future? I don't know. But I am prepared to bet on your integrity. Ethical breach, ethical breach, ethical breach.